Who is laughing deviously in the background? Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. You know, maybe there was no laughing in the background. Maybe I was wrong. No, wait, there is. Who in the world is laughing in the background like that? They ain't got no reason to be doing that. I'll tell you that right now. Oh, what? Did I delete the Batman thumbnail? Why did I do that? God damn it. It's okay. We have a backup in here somewhere. It's in here somewhere. There it is. Oh my god, it's a WebP though, so... Man, I hate Discord. WebP to JPEG. There we go. There we go. Everything is set up except for audio check. I haven't audio checked yet. Ah! Ah! Okay, audio is perfectly fine. Alright. Let me just open up my notes here. Bada bing, bada boom. Let's set the mood over here. Gotta go all the way to Kaylee. Oh, this. Yeah, let's do this here. Why not? Oh yeah, gotta set up my timer. Oh, oops. Garbage ass timer. There we go. And alright, so today we're going to be talking about a very interesting subject here. Subject some of you might be familiar on both ends here. Scarlet Rot, the bane of every Elden Ring player's existence, and Batman, probably a lot of people's favorite superhero, alongside with like Spider-Man and Superman, you know. So, we're basically going to talk about if Batman was thrown into the throttles of the Elden Ring universe, could he cure Scarlet Rot? Now, there are a few things that need to be addressed here, like the already existing cures, in big ass quotation marks, cures in the game, from preserving boluses to the unalloyed golden needle. You also have to explain what is Batman gonna have with him if he is transported to this world. And I say absolutely nothing. Like, none of his tech, no gadgets, just his suit, but not the belt. Because the belt is overpowered. So it's just gonna be him, and he needs to find a way to cure Scarlet Rot. That's essentially what the challenge is here. And obviously, some of the challenges would be him having to establish what this world is that he's never seen before. He's gonna have to analyze the situation. He's gonna have to figure out what Scarlet Rot is before he can figure out how to cure it, if he does that, right? These are all very important questions, and one of the biggest things to take note of here is that he is intelligent, but this would be difficult for him just due to the hostile nature of the Elden Ring world. So if he was put in here, no gadgets, no tech, no nothing, and he had all the shit in his brain, and he was put into this world, just a guy, just a man, into the Elden Ring world, he might get his ass kicked because there's, in Limgrave we have soldiers upon soldiers of knights and other cavalry-esque creatures. We got trolls and demi-humans about, right? And in here, Caelid, the place he's probably going to spend most of his time if he wants to secure Scarlet Rot. There's Scarlet Rot. There's the Rot ocean swamp, right? There's a Rot dragon, right? Everything's Rot related. There's the bug creatures. I know they go around this road here, along with Rot dogs. So that's also something to deal with. There's a troll over here, around here. Giant ass Rot dogs. Let's not forget the giant Rot dogs and crows that exist among the area, as well as corpses of Rot that wander the area, as well as soldiers and knights and more dragons and a gargoyle and bears. I mean, the bears they're just bears. They're not even like Rot bears, but they're there. They could be a problem. And golems. That's basically all of the threats. There's just obviously there's outliers. That's basically all of the threats. So those are some of the challenges he would have to face, as well as other locations if he were to go to those locations, and maybe he would do it due to learning more about the world. Because chances are, if he were to go to like Limgrave or Liurnia or Caelid, he may not even find what he's looking for in any of the locations to create a permanent cure for Scarlet Rot. So those are the challenges essentially that he faces, and it's not great for him, but it's not hopeless either. So let's just introduce what we have here, what he's facing. We have the Lands Between as a whole, and Scarlet Rot, obviously the disease. Let's just call it that for now. A disease that he's trying to cure, right? So what is that exactly? Well, we have Scarlet Rot, which is a pervasive, corrupting disease that forces itself upon the land. That's why Caelid is red, and the life of that land. I mean, you could go anywhere, and you could see that happening, right? From the trees, there's even like Rot-esque plant life, as you can see here, created from Rot, right? And like mushroom-esque things. What even is this, right? Looks like spores or something. Oh, it bleeds. Why does it bleed? What the fuck? Well, so, that there's shit like that, right? We also have, once again, it's like a lot of organic life has been rotted. Even crystallians, which are of a very interesting nature, very less organic than you would think, are also affected by scarlet rot, which says a lot about what scarlet rot could do. Though some people could argue, oh well, crystallians might be more organic than inorganic, you know. Which is why, I don't know, if you were to use scarlet rot on golems, they wouldn't get rotted. But crystallians count, so that's interesting in terms of crystallian rot. So, what exactly does this scarlet rot do? And like, what is its impact? Well, it seems that exposure to scarlet rot seems to decay you and kill you. Obviously, if a tarnished were to be affected by it, they clearly die from it, and their body rots away. This can be seen with characters like Millicent, and even an Empyrean like Melania is still affected. But then again, she is kind of like the chosen one for the Scarlet Rot God. So Melania is not the best example, but Millicent and her sisters are all affected by the rot in some way. You can see in their like if you've ever looked at like images of Millicent and her sisters, you'll notice that they all have like deformities in some way due to the scarlet rot, and that's very interesting. What's good? Nothing much. We're just talking about could Batman cure scarlet rot, and right now we're talking about how what exactly does scarlet rot do? We know that it kills and decays humans. Sometimes it might even reanimate corpses to some extent, turning them into like kind of like zombies from The Last of Us, a bit less extreme, but it's definitely the corpses are reanimated, and if they were to touch you and hold you, they would rot you to death. We know that much about them. Some creatures are affected differently. We know that there's dogs and crows who have clearly been mutated by the scarlet rot in some way or another. Maybe this is just due to the environment as a whole changing, and so they have to evolve in a way that kind of creates stronger creatures, if that makes any sense. So that's what happens, and it's very, very dangerous for humans. We even have, once again, Empyreans like Melania getting affected. We have Radon, one of the strongest, if not the strongest demigod, also affected by it. And he's not looking good either. So that's what the impacts are. They either mutate you or they kill you. That's what Scarlet Rot does. And if you're lucky and you're an Empyrean, you could be chosen to be some sort of like ambassador for the Scarlet Rot, the Rot God. I don't know. I'm not the host of Rot. Like Melania or Ramina. My dad is such a dick, bro. Why is he complaining about me doing work when my sister doesn't do shit? That's a good question. Honestly, it just happens. It's just a thing. It's like it almost seems randomized sometimes, even if it does kind of seem like it's mostly geared towards you. It just happens. Sometimes it's like, yeah, they're like half the time they're on your sister maybe, and then the other half it's on you. But then it feels like it's you because it is you. It's your it's your eyeballs. It's your perspective. But But yeah, that can be a thing. I'm not saying, I just don't. I'm not saying that they're biased in any way, but they could possibly be. Once again, I don't know a thing about anything, so I can't say anything. you know. He always talks about how shit is always dirty and it smells. My mother is always like that as well. Uh, it's all like it smells. And it's like, wait a minute, it, I don't smell it. No one smells anything. Sometimes she's right though. It's like, oh, holy moly. So speaking of Melania, right? Melania, we know her background, right? She's an Empyrean, born from Radagon and America, and she seems to be some sort of host for the Scarlet Rot god that is contained underground. Um, that's mostly all we know, but they call it a curse, which is, I mean, it is a curse. She's rotten and everything. But Ramana is clearly on the different side of us of the spectrum here, because while Melania is clearly not really regarding the rot in any way, rejecting her offspring, whether that be Millicent and her sisters or the little white bug creatures roaming around Kaled. She seems to be not really interested in having the rot too much, especially since Mikola also seems to not want her to have rot via, that's why he gave her unalloyed gold shit, to kind of quell it, right? And if Mikola doesn't want her to have rot, she's definitely not gonna want rot either, because she does work under Mikola's charm. So that makes a lot of sense. Meanwhile, Ramana, Ramana isn't really all under any charm, except maybe she is a little bit with the. She's a little crazy due to the Scarlet Rot. If she thinks, instead of rebuilding the church or something, I'm gonna just accept Scarlet Rot and become a bug hybrid creature. It's kind of crazy. If I run a friend over, I have to clean the entire house and make sure everything's clean. But if my sister wants a friend over, it's fucking zip zap zop, and she doesn't do shit. Honestly, it's same for me. If I need a friend over, it's like, oh, you make sure to have your room clean, have the house clean, and it's the same for my other siblings too. It's very interesting how that works, honestly. Um, but if that, if you don't think your sister is doing the same amount of work as you do, if that's a thing, you maybe maybe do something. Just tell her about it. I know who wants to talk to their siblings. I mean, but talking really does. Talking is the only way you're gonna get your point across. If you don't say anything and just have all these thoughts in your head, it's like, you're just gonna continue to live in a cycle of anger and resentment towards your siblings or your parents, and no one really wants to be unhappy now. Let's be honest. And yeah, you can say, oh, but no one listens to me. It's still, you still, like, there's only one thing you can do. It's still like the only thing you either push forward, ignore everything, push forward, or try to address the situation, um, and continue to push forward as well. It sucks, but I don't know. I guess that's life. Unfortunately, make the best of it, type shit. You know what I'm saying? I hate this place low key. I don't even want to leave my room. If you don't want to leave that your room, that's entirely your choice. I mean, if you have to, like if someone tells you, hey, leave your room, time for breakfast or some shit. I don't know. Oh, of course you have to leave your room. Don't make a fuss about it. But if you feel comfortable in your room, stay in your room until you feel like, okay, well, maybe I do want to touch grass, you know. My dad told me he's gonna take away my controllers at a specific time, like I do the fucking work, you know. Oh, that used to be a huge like thing. My mother would do. She would be like, oh yeah, I just gotta take that phone away. If you keep doing nothing, it's like okay, I get it. It never happened though, for the most part, unless I did something like really bad. And I mean like really really bad. So it's like I'm not saying it's the same situation that you're having here, but I'm saying, maybe try to work towards not having your shit taken away. Is all I'm saying. He texted me at 2:57 a.m. and expected me to be done when he woke up. Well, to be fair, you're like always awake, so maybe if you were asleep by then, he wouldn't. I'm not blaming you. I'm not blaming you at all. Let's get this straight. I'm not blaming you. I'm just saying if he thinks you're awake, he'd probably text you if you are awake. You know. I would just get that straight. I'm not blaming you at all. But if he thinks you're awake, he'll text you when you're awake. That's just a thing parents do. I know my parents would text me all the time. Tell me to go to sleep when it's like 3 a.m. You know. All right, let's talk about Batman now. All right, Batman. We all know who Batman is. I don't feel like he really needs an introduction. But let's just keep it simple, right? He's a damn superhero. He has no powers. He operates in Gotham, like probably the most heavily targeted place for crimes. Let's be honest here. Yeah, he mostly relies on his mind to solve problems, and of course he is probably like the most physically strongest and agile human without any powers. And of course he has advanced technology, but in this scenario that's not even going to matter. Some of his key abilities, he has peak human physicality. His intelligence rivals that of all the other intelligent characters in DC, and his detective skills, his deductive reasoning are all of those are top notch. He of course has combat training, so he basically knows almost basically every martial art in the world. Some martial arts he knows better than others, and some he has yet to mastered, and probably can't even master some of them in his lifetime. Like what's his name? Black Adam. Black Adam has a martial arts style, and that martial arts style actually takes more years than Batman has to master. Of course, Batman knows the style, but he doesn't quite know how to master the style due to how long it takes to actually master it. But Black Adam, of course, is a master at it. How does he expect me to be fixing my sleep schedule for school, but text me to do more chores at 3 a.m.? Once again, if he does this, I mean, if he does think you're awake, then he will text you. But maybe if you sleep, then he'll be like, oh well, if he's sleeping, I'll just tell him in the morning, which is, you can think about that. What you think about that? Waking up in the morning and the first thing you hear is, "Do this, do that, do this." So, you could think however you feel about that. But I guess if you don't want chores at 3 a.m., kind of you might have to just sleep. During 3 a.m. And that might suck for you if you have shit you want to do or might even need to do at 3 a.m. Um, but I'm just offering a possible solution. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to fucking cloud up the video with personal shit. Hey, it's fine. I'm here for a reason. You know, and nothing. I've never been like, fuck you, Roxy, fucking coming in here. I've never been like that. If you need to talk, talk. Yeah. Otherwise, what is the point of anything really? If somebody is not even able to express how they feel sometimes. Like if you have no outlet to talk, and I'm like the only outlet you have, like what I'm saying? I won't be like fuck you if you want to talk, never, never, ever, ever. Okay, so if you want to talk, you can talk. All right, never apologize for expressing yourself. Never apologize for that. You don't have to do anyways. You don't have to apologize here, for that matter. Um, you know, Other places that I have no control over, you're gonna have to bring it up with them. But the shit here, yeah. Yeah, I can't even talk to my mom because she spills all of it to my dad, so I don't even have anybody else to talk to. Some funny shit that goes on here is if I try to talk to my mom, she's like, she like, she has ADHD, so sometimes when I'm talking to her, she focuses on something else. Like, let's see, I could be talking to her about sports, right? And she's like, "Wait a minute, is there a goddamn smell up in this shit?" I'm like, "Wait a minute, we were in the middle of a conversation." It's funny sometimes. Yeah, it's like oof, but also it makes her hard to talk to. But I try my best. Middle schoolers suck ass too. I remember on my senior year, I would bring like my PlayStation to school sometimes just for funsies. If there was nothing really happening, classes were kind of out or whatever, but we still had to go to school. I would bring my PlayStation in and my whole TV, right? And I remember like nearing the end of my senior year, there was this guy, I think it was a freshman, right? The fella looked and sounded like he was supposed to be in middle school, and he kept coming up to me and looking at the screen and shit, and I just like, oh, okay, you know, I didn't mind it, but in my mind I'm like I was really awkward about it because like I get it, I'm kind of making myself stand out by bringing my whole ass gaming setup to school, but still, it was a little strange. uh, all right, so what is the question here? What is the question we're trying to answer here? The question is simple: can Batman's skill set, intelligence, but not his technology, because we're leaving all of his batarangs, his shark repellent, whatever shit he might have in his belt, right? I know sometimes he might like pull out like a Q-tip or a vial out of his belt to collect like DNA and shit. None of that shit. His belt stays at home. His technology stays at home. Anything technology, he only gets his suit because he's fucking Batman, and that's it. Can Batman cure the supernatural, world-altering, world-ending disease that is Scarlet Rot. Yeah, could Batman cure Scarlet Rot? No tech. Yeah, you got it. You got it right. That is the question. I'm leaning towards he can because comic Batman is actually insane. um, but there's also a chance that he just can't because we need to remember like in this universe, in this Elden Ring universe, you know who else tried to cure Scarlet Rot? Mikola. Now I want you to know how smart Mikola is as a person. All right, as an Empyrean and as a god, right? This guy this guy mastered magic and holy shit when he was a kid. Well, I mean, I guess he's always a kid, but he mastered that shit so hard that Radagon gave him like I think it was Radagon gave him like a faith spell gift thing because he just mastered all of it. He at that point, like he basically surpassed Radagon to the point where he made like his own branch of faith shit. He made his own branch of faith shit, man. The faith has so much lore in Elden Ring because America and it's all connected to America and the Earth Tree and everything. There's like fundamentalist shit, which I think is Radagon shit. Yeah, it's a little blurry, but Mikola is so smart that he's able to do that, right? And they keep saying how Mikola being a kid is forever cursed, but remember, him being a kid means he might still have like that child brain, and I don't know if you guys knew this. I mean, and it might seem a bit obvious, but if Mikola's brain is still young, that means it's still developing, which means it's at like a very prime time where it can basically gather all sorts of knowledge. It's a sponge. His brain is a sponge, right? And if the curse was on him for so long, it's been a sponge for thousands of years, if not more, right? So Mikola has been learning all this information. He's learned so much shit. He's been everywhere. Like his flowers, Saint Trina and Mikola's flowers are all over the world, over the ground and under the ground in the game. So he's been everywhere. He knows everything, and even he, as smart as he was, could not find a permanent cure for Scarlet Rot. He could only find some things. I mean, this guy found a way to become a god. Right? He found a way to become a god without doing the Empyrean shit. Right? He found a way to become a god without doing all the Empyrean shit, finding an Elden Lord and becoming a god through the Earth Tree. He found a way of becoming a god without even doing the Earth Tree ending, so to speak. He found his way to the DLC, the Shadowlands. He learned about everything in there too. He's traversed the land the land of shadows everywhere. And he couldn't find it. I wonder if his body would deteriorate due to Scarlet Rot and his very presence around Melania. Oh, that's my alarm. That's my 30-minute alarm for the intro we're doing here. I wonder if his body would deteriorate due to the Scarlet Rot and his very presence around Melania. Well, he probably was around Melania a lot, and clearly he was fine. But it does make you wonder, right? What were the effects around him? Maybe he found a way to not get Scarlet Rot when he was around her. I think I have the faith spell. Let's check. There it is. There it is. There's Flame Cleanse Me, right? One of the incantations of the fire monks creates a fire within the burns that burns away toxins and alleviates poison and Scarlet Rot. So if the flame monks could create this, I have no doubt in my mind that Mikola, as smart as he was, could find a way to not get Scarlet Rotted around Melania's presence. And I doubt that Scarlet Rot kind of has that type shit. Well, maybe, but just maybe not around like humanoid beings like Melania. Well, basically humans. I'll just say humans, even though she's like a special human, you know. I'll say around humans, it's not really like contagious as much. Like I'm sure if you were to, I don't know, eat a rotted finger or something, yeah, you would get rotted or some shit. Just to give you an example, you know, I'm sure it's, you know, but they're not as contagious as, oh, if you were around them, you were to die, you know. But I mean, if they were to spit on you, you would probably get scarlet rot. But not if you were just around them, you know. I'm sure Mikola knew how to handle it. I mean, his Halik tree is in the water, and there's been like some hints from the game that maybe water kind of saves away scarlet rot. So his Halik tree is in the water. Melania's boss room is in the water. Maybe not all the way in the water, but clearly in the water. So he was clearly being careful with Melania. Not to mention he created the analloid gold needle, which stopped the rot from spreading for her for a while. He also doesn't have legs in his model on Radon's back. He doesn't have legs? Does he not have... Well, he's a Well, he... No, he does have legs, though. His beginning cutscene is him having his legs, you know, and showing his feet. His first cutscene in the game is him stepping out of the God portal with his feet in the shot. Yeah, the cutscene. So he definitely has legs, and he even had legs before becoming a god too. Considering that Moog was able, if you see the Moog image where he's carrying Mikola, is like it's in a way where yeah, he has legs. They're just like tiny child legs. I just remembered. Yeah. So once we're all saying that Mikola is definitely intelligent. If he could do all this shit, but could not find a permanent cure. Remember, the unalloyed gold is only temporary. Like you can stick the needle in Millicent, you can give Melania unalloyed gold arms and legs all day you want, but the scarlet rot still persists in their body. It is only halted temporarily, but it still exists in their bodies, right? Even if it's not killing them anytime soon, it still exists, it's still there, it's still prominent. I mean, even if you have water, even if water does kind of do something against scarlet rot, clearly that's also not enough, because this is literally fucking scarlet rot water, so that's not great either. I mean, even Liurnia is getting blasted by scarlet rot, and Liurnia is literally a water. It's a water location. That's why if you ever wonder what those crystals are up there, it's literally it's Liurnia, because they built crystals, or they have a crystal ass foundation or something like that. See, look at that. So Liurnia is getting swallowed up by this rot ass location. You know, it's over for them. And they're literally a water area, so that's not great. So Scarlet Rot is very powerful, even though you could say, oh, what about the preserving boluses? Do we have any preserving boluses? We do. Preserving boluses. Scarlet Rot accumulates gradually, so alleviate to do, but we believe this is only like a game mechanic thing. Me, personally, I think it's just a game mechanic thing. And if you were to include it in the lore, it's still like not... Obviously, it's not permanent either way. Like, if it was a permanent solution, wouldn't Melania and Millicent just eat those for days? Clearly, it's more of a mechanic thing, and even if it wasn't, it's definitely not permanent lore-wise, right? So, if Batman was in here, he's not gonna... We want to ask the question, could Batman permanently cure Scarlet Rot? Not temporarily like Mikola has done with unalloyed gold or, with preserving boluses. Can he permanently cure Scarlet Rot? That's the question. So, we've already discussed all of that. We just have to ask, well, can he? Can he? It's a very good question. Well, first we gotta figure out what. Once again, let's go back to the cures that we have. So the flame monks created the spell here, right over here. They created a flame thing. Flame cleanse me. So fire seems to somewhat clear up Scarlet Rot. And then we have water, which also seems to do something. If you look around the area, the Scarlet Rot lake is surrounded by water, so that might be doing something as well. Except for up there, where it's not really water, it's just crystals and stone and dirt. So I think Scarlet Rot is still doing something up there. So Liurnia, I do feel like Liurnia would fall eventually. It's sinking. We know it's sinking because if you've ever looked at Liurnia in your life, every structure is like sunken, and that we believe this is what's happening. So that's that. So we have water, we have fire, we have the unalloyed gold, and we have preserving boluses. All of these, once again, temporary, right? And Batman needs to figure out a cure for both. So what do we have on Batman's side here? So we know Batman, is strong and smart, but can he do anything? Can Batman do anything here? It's a bit of a question because, first of all, he's going to probably take his studies of anything rot-related to Caelid, since Caelid is the only, rot area on the surface. If he were to explore the other areas, that would be up to him. Would he survive the lands between? It's a bit hard to say, because the lands between is a very hostile place. But this is going to be a dumb thing for me to talk about here. But, I mean, this is comic Batman, so I guess I kind of have to... This is really dumb. This is not Batman's first time being in a world different from his own. This is going to be a really, really, really dumb thing to talk about. Fortnite. Batman has been on the Fortnite Island, and he has survived the Fortnite Island. Now that might sound silly, right? But there are disadvantages if you are suddenly transported into the Fortnite Island. First of all, you lose all of your memories. So Batman was still kicking ass on the Fortnite Island with all of his memories gone. He still had his technology, even though his memories were gone, and he still had his bat suit. Though, it's just a bat suit, but it's not like it's gonna let him regain his memories. And he can't talk in the Fortnite world. He can't talk in the Fortnite. If you were to somehow find yourself in the Fortnite Islands, you won't be able to talk. At least during his time in the islands. I think it's a bit different now. But during his time on the island, he was not able to talk because of the power of the 0 point. Now, you guys, being Elden Ring fans or Batman fans, you guys might not even know all of the fucking Fortnite lore, so I'm not going to dive too much into it. But the point I'm trying to make here is he's been in areas where he has nothing. And he's been able... And, the areas are unknown to him in almost every aspect. And he's been able to survive, if not thrive. So Batman could very well take on the soldiers and the trolls and the demi-humans and the rune bears of this world, and he could find himself surviving, living off of the animals or the plants of this world, though I doubt he would lean too much into the plants because he doesn't know if they would be edible or poisonous. He would probably focus more on the animals because there are creatures like boars and they're kind of like rabbits, rabbit-esque creatures and birds that he could feast on. And there's still, of course, wood he could use to create somewhat of a shack or a home base. I mean, still he still has wood there. Forests. I mean, yeah, they're occupied by demi-humans, but demi-humans aren't even too much of a problem in the Elden Ring universe, except for maybe like the bigger ones and the mother. But there's no mothers here, so he would, if he were to walk here, he'd be fine. Maybe the room bears would be a problem for him, but he's a master at stealth, so he would probably be fine, considering the room bears. Like, you could walk up to one of the room bears scratching at a tree, and he'd be fine. I don't like comparing the game shit, like game mechanics to anything, if you were to compare it to anything. But you can walk up to a room bear fairly close if it's scratching on a tree and be fine, just to give you some sort of comparison. So he could like definitely live and survive in Limgrave, but his biggest problem would be entering Caelid, and not only entering Caelid, but having to analyze Caelid, right? He having to study Caelid with his primitive technology. He'd basically be like Dr. Stone. He'd be like Dr. Stone if you watch that anime, except, with some help. Clearly some help. But his problem is he wouldn't be able to have the technology required to analyze the soil and what the soil could be made up of in this world. He would have to rely more on experimentation than documentation and analyzation here. He would have to not experiment on himself, but maybe experiment on some wildlife around the area. Maybe that's a bit animal abuse, but if he could, he would. If he could, he would. you know. So what would he do? He could probably try. He'd be careful, first of all. He wouldn't go around just touching everything in Caelid. He would carefully place things in, while he tried to maybe make containers of wood. He would be very, very careful. First of all, scientists in real life, they are super careful with chemicals, and I imagine Batman would be similar here. He probably wouldn't even step near Caelid without, he wouldn't even step near it. He would probably be around here, testing the ground and everything before even stepping foot in it. I started watching the intro playing at the first second, made me want to stop watching it. Wait, what are you referring to exactly? Did I say something? I was kind of like on auto mode there, I'll be honest. The intro of Dr. Stone. Ah, Dr. Stone. Yeah, okay, that I remember now. Dr. Stone, yeah. I was trying to think about it too. Yeah, Dr. Stone it's a good concept, right? Modern man, super smart guy, scientist in like a primitive world. But but I mean it kind of swerves off of that, interestingly enough. It gets a little strange. And some of like the animation looks weird. Like, have you ever seen like what like a woman looks like in the Doctor Stone anime? It's like, why do they look like that? Like, why are their eyes looking like that? Why? It's weird, honestly. But the concept is brilliant. It makes for a fun anime. I hate the song, like the song intro, the opening with a passion. Yeah, honestly, I don't even remember the intro. I'll tell you right now, I haven't really watched Doctor Stone. I just know some of the shit that goes on in it, so I haven't seen the intro. But yeah, scientists would if scientists, just random ass scientists, were to look at Caleb, they would probably not even step foot in it until they were to get scans and shit for it, right? Batman would do somewhat of the same thing, except clearly he has no technology to do scans. He would probably stand in locations like Fort Height, or even around this area, right? But especially Fort Height. Fort Height is probably one of the best areas to do this. And I guess the Divine Tower of Limgrave too. He would study the Caelid from a distance before entering it to find out what exactly is going on here. And if he were to find something like giant-ass birds or giant-ass dogs, he would instantly know, oh yeah, this place is dangerous. Unfortunately, it wouldn't seem like he would be able to find any humans or anything resembling humans. Like, he could be in Fort Height and spot this castle, Radon's castle, right? But would he spot any signs of life in there? It's hard to say. Maybe. There are some patrols right outside there, and let's say he were to create like some sort of telescope or binoculars or shit, buy some off of Kale, right? Buy a telescope off of Kale and go back to Fort Height. He might be able to spot a human. We could test this right now, honestly. But let's say he wasn't able to spot a human. He would probably spend days to weeks to months understanding what exactly Caelid is. If he was focusing on Caelid, he could outright avoid Caelid if he thinks it is too much of a threat and doesn't know too much of an unknown factor, and he would explore the other areas and learn more about the world through the people that are in it, and other things, you know. And I think that's very interesting because he would actually just have to talk to people and everyone here that are not that aren't hostile in order to gain some sort of understanding of the world, kind of like how we do in Elden Ring, except without the item descriptions. He would not get item descriptions. So, Batman is basically like us, trying to understand the world, except he would have more of a disadvantage about it. So let's say he were to stand here. He would be able to see that fort over there. I think it's Fort Gale he's seeing over there. But from this angle, he wouldn't really be able to see... he could even see Redmane Castle from here, but I doubt he would be able to see any humans in there, even if he were to really look closely, even if he were to get like a telescope, right? He'd definitely start struggling to see if there was he would see the structures and be like, those are man-made structures, that's for sure, but he doesn't know if there are man there now. He would see the red ground and be all like, wait a minute, something is not quite right. He wouldn't even step near it, and he would possibly ignore it until he gets information. So we have to understand, okay, if he doesn't get near Caelid, if he studies around the border, where can he get information from? Well, there is a few places. Now, you could say, oh, Kenneth Height, right? Because he probably knows what fucking Caelid is, considering it's right next to him. But Kenneth Height doesn't talk about Caelid at all. No, there's only one person in Limgrave. In Liurnia, there's 0 people. I think there's 0 people he could talk to talk about Caelid. Except for maybe Ronnie, right? And that's a big maybe. Because, she knows something, but not everything. But there's actually 2 people now, I'm realizing. There's 2 people that Batman could talk to know more about Caelid. I'm trying to think if there's any other locations, but not really. Because he'd be locked away from doing anything in here in Altus Plateau because he's not going to Caelid for the medallion, right? So if he were to go to Limgrave and Liurnia, he might be able to talk to Ronnie. Ronnie might assist him, might give him information. Maybe not though. That's the problem. Maybe she might not do it just because doesn't know who she is also an intelligent character. She she created the Knight of the Black Knives. She is smart enough to know not to trust even her companions like Celavis or Blythe, who will become a mindless monster if Rani continues her quest line. And Celavis, she just can't trust at all, right? Because Celavis is a preceptor, and preceptors are kind of shady to begin with. They're basically created to be in areas like this place right over here, the damn study hall, the Carrion study hall, and they're only made to see and listen, but they don't speak. They're supposed to not speak, but Celavis speaks. So Ronnie already thinks this guy's bad news. Obviously, especially if you try to give Ronnie the amber potion, it doesn't work. You don't get an option to betray Ronnie at all. She kills you instantly. First she calls your breath bad. Then she says, get out of here. And if you don't listen, she kills you instantly. So Ronnie doesn't even trust you. Obviously, she's not even sleeping. She's not even sleeping. She's pretending to sleep. And if you do something to her while she's sleeping, she blasts you. Which is why she kind of wakes up instantly when you interact with her. Interestingly enough. Right? So Ronnie might not trust Batman for the same reason that Batman doesn't trust Caelid, because Batman knows that Caelid is an unknown, and Ronnie knows that Batman isn't a tarnished per se, but he is an unknown and can't be trusted. The only reason Ronnie gives the tarnished even the slightest hint of trust was because the tarnished is able to ride Torrent, and Torrent, it seems to have good relations with almost everything on this world. I mean, with Ronnie, clearly, and Nicola, and Melina, and it all just connects, I guess. It's like, oh, hey, you're the one who rides Torrent? Alright, let me give you a bell. Let me give you some shit right there. Give you like a spirit of wolf spirit, Bye now. She even trusts you enough to say that she can't trust the Erdtree. Like she says, yeah, you guys are fools. You guys are bumbling buffoons trying to do Erdtree shit. So she trusts you enough to say that, even though you're under, assumingly you're trying to do Erdtree shit. I mean, even when she finds you in her home, having defeated Loretta, she's all like, what are you doing here? And then you can say, oh, I'm just here for no reason, just for funsies. And she's like, well, if you're here, maybe I can put you under my service for a little while. She trusts you enough to do that. And she also trusts you that you are strong enough to do what she asks of you and to succeed, right? So she's smart enough to know the tarnish, but with Batman, she can't trust Batman. Batman, once again, is an unknown to her. So the chances of her giving him information are low, and she might not do it. Now, there's another person, which it's D. D, the Beholder of Death. D, the reason why D would have information about Caelid is because, I mean, come on, man. Garunk lives here, dude. You tell me D doesn't know about Caelid? At the very least, D will tell Batman about the waypoint, the teleportation area that can send him to Garunk. The only problem with that is that D might not tell him shit. D might just be all like, yeah, we hunt things that live in death. And Batman will be all like, cool. But unless Batman somehow connects Deathroot and somehow defeats the river guy, the fucking, what's his name again? The bone guy? Come on, we all know this guy's name. I'm not remembering. The Elden Ring. The fucking, what's his name? God damn it. Braining. The Tibia Mariner. I was gonna say the Femur Mariner. The Tibia Mariner, right? The Tibia Mariner exists in this area. And with the Tibia Mariner, like, Batman could fight a Tibia. In my opinion, he could fight a Tibia Mariner. You know, there's just bones, it's just skeletons. You know, I feel like he could beat up a Tibia Mariner, right? It's either that or he starts exploring the dungeons and the caves around this area and beats up a Black Knife assassin who also or I think it's in a chest. I think the Deathroot is in a chest. That, or we could just look. Oh, wait, no, that's the wrong area. Shit. The Death Touched Catacombs, which is the left to the area I just chose. In there is a Black Knife assassin, and she either drops Deathroot, or there's a Deathroot in the chest. And if he finds that, then he's able to somehow connect it to D. And I could see how he would be able to connect it to D, because D's talking a whole lot of shit, right? You know. Then D could be like, okay, there's a waypoint that leads to Garunk. And then Batman would try to investigate that waypoint, and it would lead to Kaled. And he'd realize, oh, Kaled can in fact be walked upon, essentially. But for now, Kaled for Batman is basically like a whole different planet. You know, I mean, the entire lands between for him might as well be a whole different planet for him, right? And he's slowly but surely understanding it. Now, where's the final piece of information that Batman could get about Kaled before stepping on it? Well, we got Selin. Sorceress Selin knows about Radon. Sorceress Selin will be all like, oh yeah, Radon holds your fate. Holds the fate of the sorcerers, of the stargazers, right? And as long as Radon is holding up the stars, nothing's gonna happen. So go beat up Radon. Now, how do we get Batman to the point where he and her talk? Well, first of all, Batman is gonna have to find these ruins, and these ruins are a good hiding spot because they're fucking ruins. It's like, oh, you don't expect some random ass lady being here, and even if you do, you'll find a damn pumpkin guy to be guarding whatever's down here. Would Batman fight against this pumpkin guy? Maybe. Would he win? Possibly. Batman knows that the pumpkin guy has the helmet, and the helmet is basically supposed to be like depriving that pumpkin guy of all of his senses, because the pumpkin guy has PTSD apparently from being a gladiator or fighting in the Colosseums. It's one of the lore. I have the pumpkin helmet. We could just look at it right now. You can look at the lore. The inside of the helm is pitch black, keeping the crazed warrior within from panicking. Perhaps its rather roomy interior also helps alleviate feelings of pressure and claustrophobia. There you go. It doesn't say where he's from though. But I'm like pretty sure it's from being like one of the Colosseums that you see a bunch of the other gladiator-esque fighters. Like in the Colosseum in Lanedale, you see those guys. I'm pretty sure that's where you're supposed to make the connection from. But clearly the Pumpkinhead does not give us that lore. So, you know, Batman could look at that pumpkin helmet and maybe he'd be able to make the deduction that, oh, okay. I don't know. It's a bit of a stretch, right? So even if you don't do that, could Batman beat up a heavy enemy like this? Maybe. To Batman, this could be another like Solomon Grundy, right? He could look at this guy, this tough, big ass pumpkin eater, pumpkin man guy, and be like, okay, This is the Grundy, and he's fought opponents way larger than him, way stronger than him. Like Bane. Bane is probably the biggest example. He's fought people like Bane and Solomon Grundy, and he's gonna look at this pumpkin guy and try to attack him in that way. Not to mention, if he does, like, let's say there's no like lore wise, there's no fog gates, right? Let's say he gets into the waypoints, spots this guy, and this guy doesn't spot him yet. The fact that the helmet is like basically pitch black, Batman and everything, like it covers up the senses. Batman could walk up in here, just like this, and be like, and then he'll have that realization. Oh, the pumpkin guy doesn't notice him yet because he has that giant ass pumpkin on his head. And then maybe he's able to sneak past him. If not, I'm fairly sure Batman could beat up the Pumpkinhead. Pumpkinhead, that's his name. His name is literally Pumpkinhead. He could beat up Pumpkinhead. Even if he does struggle with Pumpkinhead, I think he wins this fight. Okay, let's say he does this, and then he meets up with Selen. Selen is a talkative lady. She'll be all like, "Hello, I was surprised to see you here." And then maybe she'll say something about apprenticeship. Batman might be willing to learn under her, just because she has the ability to sense intelligence. This is known when if you have low intelligence and and you walk up to her and be like, "Hey, I wanna learn how to be smart just like you. I wanna be an apprentice, right?" She'll be like, "Oh, you're a little dumb, but whatever, I'll work with you." And if you have high intelligence, she'll be like, "Oh, you're a little smart. Okay, I'll work with you." So when Batman walks up to her, she can probably sense the level of intelligence he has, and she'll probably offer him apprenticeship. So that won't be a problem. The problem is getting Batman to allow Selen to open up about Caled. He might ask about it and be like, "Oh, what's up with Caled?" And she could be all like, "Oh yeah, Caled is fucked. It's fucked. Caled is so fucked." And there's a guy named Radon who's super crazy. He's also there, and he's super fucked as well. And Batman might be like, "Okay, all right, can I stand on Caled?" And then she'll be like, "Yeah, of course you can't, apprentice, dumbass." And then Batman would be like, "Okay." So I think Batman and Selen would definitely be a good duo, in the sense that she would cooperate with him and he would cooperate with her, even if Ronnie isn't not really much of an option. Selen is definitely an option. So once Batman knows that he can in fact be at Caled and most likely not be affected very much, we gotta remember that these guys, though, they have magic and faith spells and shit, they are kind of primitive compared to the modern era. So they aren't really too much concerned about the fucking health aspects of being in a place like Caled, But once Batman learns that there are people, or there is one guy in Caled, that there are people in Caled, and that you can go to Caled and be okay, right? Then he'll try to be on Caled and analyze it more. But you gotta remember, these guys are primitive. They're kind of basically like medieval times, right? Where they didn't really think about any sort of how to bathe yourself or shit like that, right? Yeah, sure, we got Roman times. In the Roman times, people were bathing each other and bathing themselves, and they had bathhouses, right? I believe. And, they probably had somewhat similar things here, some way to bathe themselves. But if you've played the game at all, and you've traveled every corner, nick and cranny here, you would notice there's not really much shit to assume. Yeah, these are clean people who know how to clean themselves. There is soap in the game, and soap does clean you. That's probably the extent to what any of these characters do in this world, in Elden Ring. they use soap to clean themselves, and maybe they use water as well, depending on the water. Your ass would not be using Kaled water, obviously. So, with that said, they probably don't. They have a limited amount of knowledge and a very limited concern for their health when traveling lands. Like, does anyone ever wonder about, like, do they care about frostbite here? Clearly not. If somebody like fucking, what's his name again? Shit. Fuck, what's his name? Shabiri. If Shabiri is out here in the snow, right, in the mountaintops of the giants, wearing his basic ass clothing, possessing the body of the samurai man, Yura. And if he doesn't care about, I mean, we get it. He's a madness guy, so of course he's gonna be in there in the mountaintops of the giants wearing nothing. But there's people like Millicent. Millicent, who's up here, and she's not really wearing any winter clothes either. So, they clearly don't care too much about the sorts of things that go on that can affect the health in these areas, I mean, damn, you got people like Millicent just walking on Kaled like nothing's going on, and she got affected by the Scarlet Rot so easily because of that. Had her whole ass arm gone at this point, right? So with that said, Batman would still, even though he knows that you can travel here, he would probably take as much precautions as he could as to not get fucking killed by Scarlet Rot, And then finally, he would be able to analyze everything. But once again, he has no technology for it. And if he has no technology to analyze Kaled, what the fuck is he gonna do, right? Well, it's not like humans back then were, like, dumb, right? Batman is lucky to be a modern human and lucky to have the technology. So Batman would have to resort to sort of ancient ways of how ancient humans were to do shit. So, analyzing the soil, I'm sure there's something that humans did to look at soil and look at the water and be all like, oh, yeah, this shit's crazy. But Batman needs to analyze this shit to find a cure for Scarlet Rot. That's the end goal we're trying to make it to. And would he be able to do that? It's hard to say that he would be able to do that. If he has no tech, he has almost no way to figure out what exactly is occurring here. He could read the stories of everyone in the damn game, and he would be stumped. He'd be stumped. He would not know what's going on, and I mean, understandably so. He would be stumped, right? It really is stumping him because he could just compare it to things. That's all he could do. He'd be like, oh yeah, this shit is similar to necrosis, or this shit is similar to fucking, it's like cancer, but if cancer was contagious. He could compare it from the moon and back, but he still wouldn't be able to find any specifics. Like what he can't look inside of the body. He could make autopsies on Kaled infested bodies, sure, all day and night, but he can still make hints as to what's going on, right? But he can't look deeper into the genes and the DNA and the cells. What's going on in the cells? What is going on with the cells indeed? He could do autopsies on the bodies if he wanted to. And what would he come up with? Oh yeah, they're definitely infected with fucking with shit. We already knew this though. He could once again go back to doing experiments, right? How long does it affect a being? Well, he could look at Millicent. He could study Millicent. He could find Millicent and study her. And that's probably the best thing he could do, honestly. I think him and Millicent would have a very interesting dynamic for a lot of reasons. And let me go into that in just a moment here. There we go. Okay, so their dynamic could be very interesting, right? Millicent could look at Batman for help, and Batman could look at Millicent as a way to, because she's basically a test. She's a perfect example for him to use to find a cure, a permanent cure, right? Let's say Batman travels Caelid and he finds the church. If he finds the church and finds Millicent, he'll find out what Scarlet Rot does to a person. Scarlet Rot has affected Millicent's sisters, right? She could talk about how they're doing. I mean, hell, one of Millicent's sisters are still here. Surprisingly, right? You'd think, oh no, we don't see them until the end of the game. Wrong. There's a summon sign on around here for Commander. I was about to say Gaius. Commander Nile, right? If Commander Nile, if that sister is fighting Commander Nile, that sister has to be around here somewhere, right? So we have Millicent. We have Millicent's sisters Batman could try to find. He could be just putting all this focus on Millicent and his sisters, and he could find Gowry at some point. Millicent has no memory of Gowry, so Batman would just have to be lucky in a sense. I think Batman would be able to find Gowry. I mean, they're not exactly far away from each other here. Batman could set up a base here in the Church of the Plague. He could set up some sort of research center for it, even though, there's it's not exactly the most advanced technology you're going to find in there, but it's going to be better than whatever shit they were rocking earlier, right? And he could study Millicent because it's happening to Millicent. And you might be wondering, could Batman versus Commander Nile, that's going to be a tough fight for Batman. Even though Batman is smart and strong, Commander O'Neill he could summon an army. He could summon an army, and Commander O'Neill himself is strong in a lot of ways. Batman would have to improvise a lot if he would want to win the fight against Commander O'Neill. It would have to take a lot of strength and smarts for him to win. I mean, hell, he could do something here. If he were to, go on this cliff here, he could just start spamming fucking arrows at Commander Naya. I know it's a bit silly, but he could think of some ways to defeat Commander O'Neill. Even if it's not in a, head-on type of battle, he could overcome him and get the Golden Needle. Even though it's broken, it's still useful, because, it's the Golden Needle. Give me a moment here, fellas, ladies and gentlemen. We'll talk about this more because there's still a few problems here, and we'll get to that in a moment. All right, so here are the problems, right? There's probably a chance that Batman isn't going to be able to find Millicent's sisters. Now, there's a high chance that he does, because unlike the Tarnished, he's actually able to talk, and he's focused on finding a cure for Scarlet Rot, right? So he'd be able to talk to Millicent and be like, hey, where are your sisters? And he could say, she could say, well, they're here, or they were here, and then he could track them down. So there's a chance he could get to the sisters before they could get anywhere near Melania's place, right? That's the upside, right? Batman's smart. He could find a way to catch these sisters. But the problem is, will they cooperate? The chances are maybe. The chances aren't exactly in favor of Batman here for any of these things, right? And the reason I say maybe is because, well, we know what happens to Millicent, don't we? Millicent fights against her sisters, but I believe, that Millicent does this because Millicent isn't trying to become another Melania. Millicent is following this path to Melania, and at some point on her journey, she realizes that she doesn't want to meet Melania, or at the very least, she doesn't want to become Melania, because she realizes at the end of her journey, she will become like another Melania or another host of the Rot. And that's why she kind of kills herself if you help her against her sisters, because her sisters are obviously for that. Now, that is a conflict of interest, ladies and gentlemen, a conflict of interest. But Batman is a mastermind. He's a mastermind, period. So he doesn't have to mention the idea of what their journeys will be at the end of their journeys, right? He'll hopefully, and this might be a problem, the sisters might want Scarlet Rot in their bodies. They might want to keep it in their bodies. They might want Millicent to keep Scarlet Rot in her body, so that they so that they can become hosts, or be, they have that connection to Melania, at the very least, to have that connection to Melania, which is a huge conflict of interest because Batman's trying to cure Scarlet Rot. So that is the biggest problem. These sisters might want to keep the Rot in their bodies. Because you ever wonder, hey, wait a minute, we've only found like one golden needle. How in the world are these sisters continuing on? Right? I think Millicent, the reason why she was so sick and couldn't move anymore was because she didn't really have much of that fight in her, clearly, right? She clearly didn't have that much fight in her, especially since at the end, you realize that she's not going on the same path that her sisters are going, and so they fight, right? So, clearly, at the beginning, she didn't have the full willpower that her sisters did to make the journey. I think they're all infected with Scarlet Rot, and she just happened to have had, basically, she stood here in Caelid for too long, while her sisters continued the journey, somehow, with Scarlet Rot in their veins, continue on to find Melania, right? Maybe, right? Well, once again, some of this is speculation. Some of this is kind of what you can take from what we're seeing here in Elden Ring. It's all very, very interesting. And I think if Batman can get the sisters, I think that's it. I think Batman could possibly, if not permanently, he could possibly find out everything about Scarlet Rot through the sisters. And there's a few problems with that in the moment here, but let's take into account that if Batman does have all of the sisters plus Millicent, he's able to do research, and he might be able to find a cure for Scarlet Rot. The problem is if he doesn't, and he only has Millicent, it's going to take him longer to find any information on Scarlet Rot, just because it's only Millicent. Millicent is only one person. Millicent is also dying to the Scarlet Rot, slowly dying, so Millicent isn't going to be here forever. Millicent also, at this time, also wants to continue her journey to find Melania at this time, right? And Batman might strike a deal with her to say, if you stay here a bit longer, we can find a way to cure your Scarlet Rot, and you'll be able to, I'll also help you find Melania, right? And that's a big stretch, in a sense, because if the sisters don't want to keep that Scarlet Rot in their bodies, Millicent though thankful that the pain has stopped, might also want to keep it in her body and not find a permanent cure, and is okay with the needle cure, essentially, right? In which Batman would be screwed, because then he's like, oh, well, I can't find a cure because no one wants to fucking cure. It's like, what the fuck? Batman's like, what the fuck, man? But let's hope that Millicent's different, because she is different, clearly, from her sisters, if she's able to beat them up. Oh, man. So with that said, let's say that, now let's look at the idea that Millicent and her sisters do all agree to finding a cure, right? There are problems because Batman has no technology. I've already said this, right? Because Batman could take skin, like he could look at their bodies all they want and how their bodies are being affected, but he is on a time limit. There's only one golden needle, right? And there's only one golden needle, and what is there? Isn't there like 5 of them? Millicent sisters. Millicent sisters. There are. Let's see here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4. So there's 5 sisters in total, including Millicent. And there's only one needle. So Batman is on a time limit here. Could he cure Scarlet Rot before they all die of Scarlet Rot? It's a problem. It would definitely be a problem for him, right? Because he's on a time crunch. Can he do all the research he has to do to find some sort of cure before they all fucking die? This is just a very interesting question, and it kind of goes to challenge Batman's intelligence and how he does under pressure, under time constraints like this. I think Batman would struggle. I think with the challenges that he faces, he would struggle so hard because he has none of the technology. He's intelligent, and he's so smart that he knows what he needs to do to get shit done, to find a cure. He just doesn't have the tools needed to get shit done in a way fast enough. You know how like in almost every movie or show, there's always like that ever has like the villain has a disease that'll end the world, and then the superhero finds the cure for it, but the cure is like, but it's always like a time limit, right? It's basically like that for Batman. I think one of the best examples is how Spider-Man, the Spider-Man game, PS4, PlayStation Spider-Man, they have the cure. They have the cure, but they need like a whole 24 hours or something to create more of the cure, but it's going to be too late for Aunt May. I'm thinking it's somewhat of a similar situation for Batman here, where Batman, if he does find a cure, chances are it's going to be too late for Millicent and her sisters. They're going to die one by one. Even with the Golden Needle. Here's the problem with the Golden Needle, right? You can stick the Golden Needle in one of them. That's already one of the problems. But the other problem is the Golden Needle halts the rot. So with the Golden Needle halting the rot, what is Batman able to study there? Sure, he can study how that's exactly happening, right? That's cool, that's good and all. And if he can recreate, I'll just say recreate. If he can replicate is what I'm thinking. If he can replicate what exactly the Golden Needle is doing when it's stuck in Millicent, he could be able to do it with all of them. He just needs gold, maybe, the unalloyed gold. And I mean, that's another thing. If he is able to find more unalloyed gold, then he could find a way to save them all. But the problem is, the best way to find a cure for these people is to study the disease in effect. I mean, it's kind of a crazy take, a crazy mad scientist take, I think, but it's true. So the Golden Needle needs to be taken out of the body so that we can see it taken into effect and study how it works to defeat it. maybe this is a mad scientist take, right? But we have to let these people die in order to save the damn world. All right, Batman, as smart as he is, I think he is only able to do so much as a person, and he will fight to the very end to find a cure. But I think Millicent and her sisters, either one of them dies, two of them die, three of them die, four of them die, and maybe all of them die. But Batman, even if he does find a cure, he won't be able to save anybody by the time he does. I think he won't be able to save everybody by the time he does find a cure. That's my thoughts on it. But yeah, that's it. That's all I wanted to talk about, honestly. I think that's about everything. I mean, he could go to Landau, and hopefully he finds traces of Mikkola's own research in Landau, or even that if he does go all the way towards the Helic Tree. I mean, it's a bit of a journey, and definitely a difficult one for Batman, but Batman has faced difficult journeys before, so if he were to take on that task of finding Mikola, or finding any remnants of Mikkola's research on Scarlet Rot, and learning Mikkola's shit, and hell, even like talking to Melania, because he's actually gonna talk instead of fight. Chances are they automatically fight Mikola or Melania and Batman, just because Melania seems to be on that automatic fight mode. Probably because she sees him as an intruder of Mikola's abode, right? And it instantly goes into fight, even if he were to be all like, wait a minute, hold on a minute, So that's my thoughts on it. I think Batman could cure Scarlet Rot, but it'd be too late for anybody affected by Scarlet Rot, at least most of the people affected, But, I mean, even if he were to go on this journey, he'd already know, like, let's be honest, he'd already know what he already knows just by being in Kaled, right? The unalloyed gold doing something. The only reason he would, like, follow Mikola's path is if to find more of the unalloyed gold. And I guess he could find it in Melania's prosthesis. Yeah, maybe. But that's if he, if he's able to, like, melt all of the shit down, like the prosthesis is. If he's able to melt them down into golden needles, similar to Mikola's, and they work the same way, well, I think he's found very good permanent, like, temporary cures. And if he is able to do that, that's, like, honestly, I feel like he would be able to do that. My problem is, like, my major problem is there something stopping it? Like, it's probably not just the needles, right? Or the prostheses that are, or the material itself that are stopping the Scarlet Rot. Like, is there a magic involved with the unalloyed gold? Maybe, but at the same time, Gowry is here. And if Gowry's here and he's able to repair the unalloyed needle and it works the same way as intended by Mikola, I mean, just get Gowry to do the magic shit. Or hell, have Gowry teach Batman the magic shit. Gowry's already teaching the Tarnished, like, pest dreads, right? Just teach him how to repair the needle, Batman's smart enough to figure it out. He'll learn, right? Bada bing, bada boom. Temporary cures for everyone. That's if Melania lends her prostheses. Chances are she won't, but that's an idea I had, I guess. But yeah, there's only 2 needles in the world, huh? The broken one here, and then Melania's. Melania wouldn't be so mad about having her prostheses taken away then, right? Because she already has the needle, right? And that's, like, the thing keeping her alive, not the prostheses. I mean, yeah, I guess she kind of needs those to walk and clap and eat, but it's okay. It's alright. It's for the greater good, Melania. Okay, you don't need those prostheses. But yeah, that's honestly all I had to... I think that's everything. I think Batman would cure Scarlet Rot temporarily, permanently, but I don't think he would be able to save everyone.